Okay, so on the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, we're on the law of solid ground. Okay. And what the law of solid ground says is that trust is the foundation of all leadership. Okay. So trust is the foundation of all leadership. Okay, so that's a pretty bold statement, but I would agree with that. You know, if you don't have trust, think about when we went through the 5 dysfunctions of the team.
Yeah.
Think about that foundation is trust.
Mm,
You don't have trust, none of this stuff even matters.
Sure.
You know, if you don't have any sense of trust with the people, like they're not gonna follow you because there's no reason to follow you because they don't
Yeah.
trust you.
That's right.
Okay. And so I think we've all had that in our life that you don't trust somebody and you're not going to build a foundation on someone that you don't trust at all. Okay. And so it's foundational for everything. And so your job as a leader is to continually build trust. It's day in, day out. You're just doing things and following through to make sure you're building trust. I was just dealing with this on the RV park we're dealing with, and I was talking to my partner over the weekend, and he'd sent me some stuff, and I said, you know, we have to be able to answer these questions and hit. And I said, by the way, you have to have deadlines, timelines, and if you don't hit them, then you need to explain why, right? And I said, because we're building trust. Like we need to show like this is the time frame we set, commit to the time frame, and then push every other person around us to hit the timeline. And I said, if they don't, then I need to know why they didn't, so we can answer the question. So, because what we're doing, and you kind of go, well, why? And he agreed with that. And I said, because we're building trust.
Yeah.
Like you have to communicate what's going on and make progress to build trust. Or what you do is you are either building trust or you're violating trust. Okay. And so I'll give an example when I violated trust was, you know, when I used to run this company, you know, we had a bunch of employees. Me and Tom were not in a good place in our partnership. And we continued to violate trust because we had this toxic environment and we kept withholding information from the employees. Like they didn't know what was going on. Everybody kind of knew something was wrong, but we just kept violating trust because we wouldn't communicate what's going on, where we're headed. And so it just left this violation of trust, which just, you know, was, you know, completely toxic. You know, and so just think about that in your own life when you've had building trust situations. There's good communication, people know what's going on. And there's also transparency. Hey, we screwed up, this is wrong, here's why, here's how we're going to fix it, versus blaming, like, yeah, you know, that was somebody else's fault and we're not going to take personal responsibility. So have you guys ever had any of those experiences yourself, either on either side of the coin?
think I've never violated trust ever. Okay, maybe not. Maybe I just violated trust right there.
You'll have to let me know. Tell me the perfect button.
That's yeah. I think with a lot of examples can come to mind with kids. You know, and like all the time, you know, like, you know, like just, and sometimes it's you're not doing it because you're like a bad person or you're trying to be untrustworthy, but sometimes it's just like a quick and easy, you know, like the whole answers of, you know, like, well, why can't I do that? Like, oh, because, you know, like that's like in a way it's like you're not disclosing information, you're not giving reason, you know, because I said so, you know, that sort of stuff. And I think that can be dangerous because then kids, your children get into the mindset that, you know, the the person in charge, the boss, doesn't really make sound decisions. They just make decisions because they can. It's like a place of power. So when you're in a place of power, you just use your leverage. You know, and I think that can be bad. So
yeah, and they don't have to think either. We'll just do it. Don't ask questions. Don't even think about what you say.
yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, it's almost like a kind of a bad, funny example, but when I was like in 4th grade or something, I actually cheated on a test and I got caught. And I never will forget the burning vision of that teacher just like in my face, like making me feel horrible in front of the whole class.
Yeah.
And so it's like when I basically, and I was a really good student too. And so I was like, man, I just like totally wrecked her trust in me. Now she doesn't trust me anymore. And then my family doesn't trust me. So it was a good lesson to have. And also like, you just remember, how did that feel? And so the feeling of it, you don't want to feel again. So I think that's where I would say now it's like, just be honest, be truthful, and you have nothing to worry about, because even if it's not always the best outcome, at least it's you're not hiding from anything.
100%. Yep, just be transparent. There was a guy years ago when the market was tough and every deal counted, and I remember we like worked up for a while. It was a big deal, and he finally was like, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah.
And so you were getting towards the end of the year, and I remember getting a phone call from him, and it was probably, I don't know, 2 months later. And he goes, well, Merry Christmas. I'm like, Merry Christmas. And he goes, yeah, we're closing the deal with the lender. And he goes, you're going to get your fee. And it was like a big deal. And I'm like, whoa. And what struck me is that he could have probably closed the loan and never brought me into the deal. And he had like done all the work and then still just said, you're going to get paid your fee that you did. Because like, I was really blown away about his integrity.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, that's a good guy right there. That's wild.
And I just thought that's the kind of people that you want to not only be around but work with, and become. So trust, those kind of people you trust, and go, wow, that's a person of their word,
That's true.
And he probably never would have called me, or probably would never found out. Maybe.
Wow.
Who knows?
That's awesome.
So there's 3 questions that John says when people who are working for you are asking this question, either verbally or not. And the first one is, do you care for me? Okay. So the person that you're trying to build trust with really legitimately is asking them a question of like, do you actually care for me as a person? First, that's why one of our cultural convictions is you matter to me. Do you really actually care about me? That's the first question. The second one is, can you help me? Is it going to be better if I'm working with you? Right? Like, can you actually help me get to where I want to go or not? That's a legitimate question that someone's going to ask. We'd be hiring people here. They're asking that question. Do you care about me? Can you get me to where I want to go? And then the third one is, can I trust you? Can I legitimately trust you to do what you say you're going to do? So you just think about those as a leader. You're going to have to answer those 3 questions. Probably not even verbally necessarily, but there's some elements of it. But that's what people are thinking. Do you really care about me? Can you get me to where I want to go? Can I really trust you? Okay. If you want someone to follow you, that's what's going to happen. All right. You guys dealt with that just recently when you had to have a conversation, right? Like you had to sit down and go, hey, here's what I want to give you. What you were saying to that person is, I care about you. I care about you either here or out there. You matter to me. Okay. And I want you to have success, independent of if it's with us, right? And so you were answering those questions, and there could be, because you were willing to do that, you were building trust. It's like, oh, you'll tell me things I don't want to hear necessarily sometimes, which means that I'm not just getting a yes man all the time, or you're stabbing me in the back, but you're smiling to my face, right? Type of thing. And so what does it say in the old proverb? It's just better to have a friend that slaps you in front, to your face, versus that
Yeah.
stabs you and smiles to you behind your back,
Mm,
And the impetus of that, John says, really is the core of all this is good values. Okay. If you have good values, then that's what people are sniffing out. Do you have good values? Or not? And then do you live those values out? John said, someone asked him one time, will you write a book on business ethics?
Yeah.
And John said, no, I will not write a book on business ethics because there is no such thing as business ethics. He said, there's just ethics. So I was like, oh, okay. So you're happy to write on ethics, but there's no such thing as business ethics.
Like, why is it different?
Yeah, it's just ethics.
yeah.
And he says, it's just the golden rule, like treat others the way you want to be treated, at the end of the day. And if you have good values, you'll be a trusted person. And if you value yourself, you'll value others. Okay. And so good values make you stable and solid, and versus something that's empty on the inside. Because if you're building your internal world the way that you want to, then it will manifest itself externally outside. Okay. So this is what he calls, obviously, the law, and rightly so, of solid ground, when all is said and done.